let's start with Kimya. Fantastic. So I'm not really going to sort of introduce you other than thank you for joining us. I'm going to go off mic and off camera. And yeah, absolutely. As they said, the floor is yours, Kimya.
Hey, thank you. Hi, I'm Kimya Gandhi. I'm a typeface designer from Mumbai, but I live in Berlin now. And this is what you see is my name in the two scripts that I most work in, Devanagari and Latin. And during the course of this talk, I will explain and talk a little bit more about what I do. So Devanagari, unlike Latin, is a phonetic alphabet, which means that you read what you see, and there's no silent sounds like in French or inconsistent pronunciations like in English. But if you haven't seen Devanagari before, you'll see a lot more about this in my talk. But it pretty much functions like this. Look, my name is Kimya and Gandhi. So that's the way it works. A little bit about me. My design practice includes drawing retail and custom typefaces for some for our own library and some for clients. I also undertake some typeface projects with other foundries drawing Devanagari typefaces for their existing library. So it's a mix of different kinds of projects. And when not working on typefaces, I'm also working on some lettering artworks for like movies or recently vinyl album cover. I think it's interesting with the East and West concept because when I think about it, I think my it's not only impacting my design process, but also kind of my overall life pretty much because my partner and work partner and husband is from the US. So it's always kind of an East and West in our household. So we lived in India for 6 years before moving to Berlin. And yeah, together we co-run our type foundry. It's called Mota Italic, where Rob mainly works on Latin typefaces and I work on Devanagari. And sometimes we mostly collaborate on both these scripts. You can check more of our work from our website, which is motaitalic.com. Again, like I said, we work on a lot of multi-script families, which includes Devanagari, Latin, Greek, some Cyrillic. Yeah, this is my work view. This is what you cannot see in front of me. And yeah, I'll take you through a little bit of what my work entails. So back to Devanagari, this is how the script looks like. Devanagari is the script that is used to write the language, which is Hindi. We probably are more people who are not used to the script. That's how it works. Like Latin is the script that's used to write the languages, English, German, Spanish, whatever. So to explain some differences between the script is that so the Latin sits on the baseline, whereas the Devanagari kind of hangs from the top line. So that's one of the main differences that you can see between the two scripts. Unlike Latin, Devanagari does not have a case, so it's a unicase alphabet. It also, so the calligraphic angle for Devanagari and Latin is completely reversed. So if you see the Latin angle is this way and the Devanagari is completely the other angle. I won't get into too much detail about all the anatomy because I don't have too much time, but just to give an overview, the vertical metrics for both these scripts are also quite different. So if you know, the Latin script has sometimes diacritic marks, which are above or below these characters, whereas Devanagari has a lot of above and below marks, and sometimes some combination characters can also make these very long stacked combinations. So the metrics is quite a bit different, a little bit more complicated, I would say, from Latin. But as far as the visual culture in India goes, I think the metro cities are highly bilingual or multilingual. As you know, India has a lot of languages that are functioning together. So it's normal to see a lot of multilingual typography, but also very common to see Latin as well. So, for example, it's very common to see that the shop signs and stores have these two scripts working together, but very often you see that there's sometimes really weird, funny things happening with them and lead to some very interesting examples. Like this one has this swash character, and then, I don't know why they chose a serif when there's actually no serif in Devanagari as the script. So it's, or this one where there's a drop cap, but with Devanagari there's no, you can't have drop caps because there's no upper or lower case. So, or sometimes where there's two styles, but there's not even any effort to match these two. I don't know, maybe a little bit of laziness. I don't know. But also, I think it's a slightly cultural nuance that makes local languages sometimes viewed as something slightly inferior at times, and it's more vernacularly viewed. And maybe something of a post-colonial hangover. I don't know. But also, I think it's really interesting to see when you see the representation of India worldwide. It's also sometimes very limited, and there is always these examples of impersonating the Devanagari script with like this hybrid Latin. And if you've ever been whichever part of the world, I'm sure you've seen these. You've been to one restaurant which has this. The other part with Devanagari is that the script rendering is a little bit complex. So if one doesn't pay close attention, there can be really bad problems that could happen. But this is changing. And since a few years back, you see with global brands that come to India, they are trying to make some more coherent examples with trying to have a visual language that is more matching with everything. Also, there's a lot of local brands that are making a lot of really nice multi-script branding. These are some few. This is a sweets branding. It's also nice because they use one of my typefaces in there, but it's not enough, and I hope to really add way more examples to this. But this context inspires a lot of my process, and when working on projects that involve both the scripts, it becomes very important to have this background. So if you see a little, I'll try to illustrate a little bit more with my projects and see how these different styles are harmonized. So this is one of my recent projects called Zarid Sans Devanagari. It's a humanist companion to an already existing Latin. And you can see how with different, if it's a text typeface, the proportions kind of sort of change, but there is also attention to some special features that get carried across both designs. While I explained the calligraphic angle before, because if here you see that it's applied and the curved corners are kind of swapped, and if I would keep the same as the Latin, then it looks completely off. This is DJR who designed the Latin. I'm going to go a little faster. Well, these are, of course, I'm showing just snapshots of different projects and how both scripts get designed together. So certain decisions in one script kind of affect the other. In this case, the Latin and Devanagari were drawn together. In a recent project that I'm currently working on with the super cool people at Dynamo, they have an stylistic alternate set with like these diagonal characters, and so I kind of tried to carry the same with some Devanagari example, which is also a stylistic set, which kind of fits in this universe. The other part of what I wanted to speak today quickly is what drives me to create some extras to these typefaces, because I feel that typefaces act as medium to convey information, but they're also icons of culture. And India has had a large, rich past of iconography alongside letter forms. And in current times, you also see a lot of use of these images, even more than before. So I thought, why not to combine both these? So in one of my recent typefaces, Maku, I took the liberty to draw a lot of these icons inspired from a lot of Indian festivals and things like that. So in my next project, which is called Chiki, which uses the Gurmukhi script, which is used to write Punjabi, I also added a lot of these patterns. And when you duplicate them, you can make these different patterns, which kind of are inspired from an embroidery style from Punjab. I also made some stickers and other things that kind of can be used more in a more fun way. And I'm always adding a lot of these different examples, and this one is based on my cat. And lastly, I wanted to say that most importantly, what drives me to draw these letters in my own ways is because I want to push the boundaries and see what is possible to do with Devanagari typography in the current context, because why should Latin all the fun? So it's just my attempt to make new typography for new messaging for the new times. And for this, I also am trying to work with other graphic designers and visual creators to create a new vocabulary for Devanagari. This is with the very talented Shivani Parsanis, who took fit and made some really fun images. And yeah, I also try to make some objects because it's nice to have something physical when you're always drawing 2D. So these are some. Also, I love cooking. So this was a product of my love for both food and fonts. Yeah, so I think in the process of working, then when I sometimes see messages like this, it a little bit reinstates my reasons for why I draw typefaces. And on days when I'm doubting myself, I think it's a good reminder. So yeah, in the end, I think as a designer, it's my responsibility to create the visual landscape that I want to see. And I really hope to live in a vibrant one where I see Indian scripts being celebrated in all their glory. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. And you can follow more of my work on Mota Italic or my profile, Kimya Gandhi. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Kimya, thank you. Don't go just yet. Just a couple of questions, getting some really positive comments. I think that was just like a 101 in Devanagari type, which, again, in this spirit of unknown, so many things, so much value that you're sharing with other type designers like myself who might actually work on completely different typefaces on a daily basis. One question might be, but with the stickers, for example, there's such a discipline in the way that you've constructed, especially the variables, just beautiful work. With the stickers, do you find that discipline has to continue, or are there some areas where you can have, certainly with color and dimension, you're having fun with it, but do you sort of like break any rules, or do you try and adhere to those constructs that you shared in the beginning of the presentation?
I think, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I think it's a cliche that before you break the rules, you need to know the rules, but that's kind of true with type design very much, because I think it's, for me, important to understand what the construction is supposed to look like for certain letters, and then know how much I can push it, because eventually if the type is used for a communicative purpose, it's eventually important that it fits the context and it's legible. So I think it's like a fine balance, which I'm having fun exploring. Actually, with this typeface, which is on the screen right now with Fit, I think that is something that I played with a lot, because it's not it's not following a traditional construction as such, but it still has these small little pointers that still remind you of the scriptness of the script. So it's still maintaining a little bit of that, but still pushing some. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
So great. That DNA is there, and I think we're always looking for a great quote from everybody. And the fact that you just said, before you break the rules, you need to understand or know the rules, I think is just a great way of thinking about anything in design, but certainly the way that you've approached it. So, and you're on time. So that was so good. Thank you so much.